The following program on PBS 39 is made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
This is Arts Weekly. Arts Weekly is presented by the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of the arts. Welcome to this edition of Arts Weekly. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Melinda Haynes with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. In the second half of the show, we'll meet Heather Mosier and Jeff Casaza to talk about IPFW's upcoming production of Orlando. But first, Laura Lydy and Adam Robison are here to tell us about their upcoming classical guitar ensemble concert. Laura and Adam, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
You know, I'd like to start out by just kind of learning what is a guitar ensemble. For people who might not know, what does that mean?
Well, it's an ensemble of classical guitars, and it's essentially a chamber ensemble where we will organize into smaller groups of quartets and trios and duets. And it's distributed, the parts are distributed much like a string quartet would be, from a high-sounding range to mid-range and then bass range. So that's how we distribute those parts among those 3 or 4 guitarists.
And so what does that mean by a classical guitar? I mean, we're not talking about a electrical guitar. We're talking about something acoustic, correct?
Classical guitar is an acoustic guitar. One of the defining differences is it has nylon strings on it rather than steel strings. Okay. The neck is wider, and most often it's played with a fingerstyle technique. And guitars go through a lot of fussing around with their fingernails because it's very specific to learning how to approach playing with a combination of nail and flesh to get a very warm and mellow sound.
So we're not picking on the guitar?
Not using a pick at all.
At all. Okay. So that's something different that people might not have ever seen before.
Right.
So the students who are taking part in this guitar ensemble, you know, tell me a little bit about them, how many there are, and, you know, what part they play.
Okay. We essentially have a department of 15 to 20 guitarists, and they are all focusing on music degrees, but there's various different avenues they can take within those degrees. They could be a guitar performance major, as Adam is, which is most concentrated in performing skills, or they could be music in an outside field, where they pursue guitar and their core music courses, as well as a different field of concentration, like a double major.
Okay.
So someone could be music and music technology, or music and business. And then we also have an excellent music therapy program, and that prepares someone to go and work in a clinical setting. And then we have music education, and that allows someone to get a teaching certificate. And
so they might be in one of those areas of study as well as playing guitar in the ensemble.
Everyone has to have an instrument of concentration, and for us, the instrument of concentration is guitar.
Adam, tell me about your background with guitar. You know, how long you have been playing. And
well, I've been playing for about 15 years. I started when I was a teenager, primarily focusing on, you know, the rock and the flashy guitar solos and all that stuff.
Is that why you started?
So, yeah, you know, that's why I started. I wanted to be on stage. I wanted to be that guy playing the flashy stuff, you know. And so, you know, I did that. as soon as I graduated high school, I began to study classical guitar at Ball State University, but I wasn't not prepared for that. So this is my second attempt at college, IPFW. I've been here for, I think this is my 9th semester. I've learned a lot from Professor Lydy here, and it's been a great experience.
And so, I'm assuming you still play in the rock bands and the reggae bands, but what has taking classical guitar, you know, done for you as a guitar performer? What has that taught you?
Well, I'd say the number one thing is the extreme amount of focus that it takes for classical guitar. Has helped me in all my areas of performance. The preparation and all that stuff, it's really been a big help for me with all
So
my
your
performance.
degree then will be in guitar performance, and
Yes.
you have another area of concentration.
I
as well,
originally began at IPFW as music with an outside field, and then as I progressed through the program, the music technology degree became available, so that piqued my interest, so I started pursuing that degree. And then just recently the guitar performance degree came into effect, so I felt like I wanted to do that as well. So I'm currently doing a double major, guitar performance and music technology.
Well, we've got a little video of your, guitar, and if we can pull that up, we'll show a little clip of you in performance here.
Sure, sounds great.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
The solo piece that you performed there, that's going to be a part of your junior recital, or not maybe not
Yes.
that piece, but your recital that you have coming up in April.
Yes, that will be on the recital. That is part of 4 separate pieces that are going to be performed as a collection. They're caprices written by Luigi Leggiani, an Italian guitar composer. Their primary focus is, a little bit more of the speedy, kind of flashy sort of playing that I've always wanted to play. So
Oh, well,
I
here's
enjoy
your
that style
chance.
quite a bit.
And we can all see you. Now, Laura, in the ensemble that is going to be taking place, what kind of music will we hear at that?
We try to represent different areas of the repertoire. Most specifically, we'll be starting with some Argentinian and Brazilian sambas. And they're very melodic and rhythmic, syncopated rhythms, more, what we associate with what Brazilian music sounds like. And then we'll move into a kind of a central part of the program is a very programmatic piece that is called Cuban Landscape with Rain. And it essentially depicts a rainstorm from the very beginnings of little sprinkling drops to building up in its ferocity and then backing off. And that will be the largest group of the concert, which will be 8 guitarists playing. And then we go back into some Spanish repertoire and finishing up with an American composer.
And so you'll go back and forth from smaller groups to this larger group,
Yes.
you know, throughout the course of the concert. Now, Adam, we talked a little bit about, you know, how the performance degree program has, you know, made you a better guitarist. How exactly, you know, what has that course of study done for you from, you know, starting out wanting to be a flashy rock guitarist?
Well, it's helped me out quite a bit. Like I said, with the focus and preparation, also really just the overall knowledge of the instrument. You know, learning all the notes on the fretboard. Learning classical guitar, you're forced to read sheet music, something a lot of guitar players can't do and refuse to do. So it's, you know, it's quite a challenge, but it's definitely rewarding, and you know, really understanding the ins and outs of the fretboard and just, you know, becoming more confident on your instrument, I think, is primarily what it's all about.
Well, and being more comfortable with your own performance skills.
Yes.
Well, and so what is your role with the ensemble?
Well, over the past semesters, I've performed with various sizes, some duets, trios. This semester, I'm in a quartet that we are performing 2 pieces on the recital this semester. So really, just kind of, you know, I've played everything from the bass instruments to the kind of flashier, higher-end kind of soloing stuff. And
Well, that's going to be wonderful to see. Yeah. So I want to recap your junior recital, April 27th at 7:30, Reinhardt Music Center. And Laura, the guitar ensemble, when and where, and what are the details on that?
It is Wednesday, April 10th at 7:30 in Reinhardt Recital Hall.
And the tickets can be
purchased at the box office.
And I think that we'll have some information up on our screen about that in just a little bit. Well, thank you both so much for being here. While we get ready for our next segment, please take a minute to view our performance calendar of what's coming up in our area. You also can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll be right back with Heather Mosier and Jeff Casaza to hear about IPFW's production of Orlando. Orlando, the stage adaptation of Virginia Woolf's novel by award-winning playwright Sarah Ruhl, is a witty, clever, gender-bending, period-hopping play, according to New York Magazine. Preserving Woolf's vital ideas and lyrical tone, Ruhl brings to the stage the life of an Elizabethan nobleman who's magically transformed into an immortal woman. Today, I'm joined by Orlando's director, Jeff Casaza, and lead actress, Heather Mosier. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
You know, I think a lot of people are very familiar with the author, Virginia Woolf.
Absolutely.
But Orlando is a little bit departure for her from a lot of things. So, you know, let's talk about that. What are those differences from what people usually think of with her work?
Well, I think overall, when we think of Virginia Woolf, we think of death and all of these horrible things happening and all of the dark, dismal aspects of life. And Virginia Woolf, when she wrote Orlando, this is a complete departure of that. It's more of a celebration of life. It's kind of it has a fantastical fantasy aspect of it. It's much more humorous, and death plays absolutely no part in it.
That's refreshing. So tell me, what is Orlando about? What is the storyline?
That's a good question. It does. It follows Orlando, played by Heather, and it starts in the Elizabethan age, and it follows her life, the choices that she makes, or the choices that he makes in that situation. And then as his life is progressing, things change because of society, because of time. So while time is going by, Orlando doesn't age, or ages much more slowly than everyone else. So as we go into the 17th century, Orlando's only a little bit older as time passes. So with each century, he's gaining just a little bit of age.
But he's getting wiser.
Maybe.
Sure.
Maybe.
We'll have to find out about that. So Heather, this is your honors project. You know, first of all, what is an honors project? What does that mean? I mean, there are people out there who probably have never ever heard that term.
It's a good question. Basically, I am attempting to complete the honors certificate here at IPFW, and one of the requirements, aside from having to take, I believe it's like 18 credit hours of honors classes, I have to do an honors project, an overall kind of thing that summarizes my area of study, and so I decided to choose Orlando. And basically what I kind of broke it into 3 parts. First part was writing a research paper about Virginia Woolf and her life, and kind of using that research to create the character of Orlando and base my choices on that. And then I also had to give a presentation to the rest of the cast so that they could have that information as well to develop their own characters. And then the final part of it is actually portraying the character of Orlando in the show.
So you have got lots of hats to wear.
Oh, a little bit.
So, you know, when I'm, reading this bit about it's a gender bender period hopping play, you know, the thing that is most fascinating to me is that Orlando starts as a man and becomes a woman. You know, how does that happen?
Come see the show, I guess.
Yeah, well.
Well, I mean, it's very similar to what happens in the story or in the novel. Orlando spends this much of his life as a man, and the centuries are generally changing at transformative times in his life as well, where there's an area of stress or something's happening, and then the century moves forward and he ages a little bit. And in the middle of the book, there's a number of stressful things that are happening, and he goes to sleep, and he won't wake up. And 7 days later, wakes up and is magically a woman. So Virginia Woolf never goes into the aspects of how, which plays, I think, into the fantastical elements of the story that goes against most of her other work.
Well, and you know, these fantastical elements, they're actually kind of based on Virginia Woolf's real life.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, can talk to me a little bit about that, and you know how those characters are, you know, real people to her, and how she wrote this book.
Well, basically, Virginia Woolf put a lot of her life into a lot of her writing, but for this particular story, she wrote it more as a love poem to Vida Sackville West, which she was having an affair at the time, and so basically, she's talking about the roles of society and the roles of men and women in society and what determines them, and also about how Vida, because she was a woman at that time, could not inherit her estate and so lost it simply because of her gender. And so that played an effect in Virginia's writing of the story and kind of giving Vida a chance to live life as a man. But then also she includes, like the character of Marmaduke represents Harold Nicholson, which is Vida's actual husband. The role of the Archduke/Archduchess is also a man with whom Vida had previously dated, and she actually rejected his proposal, which is also seen in the show. And then the character of Sasha is thought to be Violet Trefusis, who also had an affair with Vida as well. So there's a lot of different characters that it's all over the place. But a lot of characters do actually have some representation of real people in real life. So.
Well, and this was written as a book, but it's been adapted, you know, into the play. So does the play differ a lot from the book, or what kind of changes were made?
It's actually really interesting on how well Sarah Roll, she basically just lifted certain lines that Virginia Woolf just right out of the book and just inserted them into a condensed version so that you could see it in a much more shorter amount of time. But literally, most of the lines are word for word. There's a few little bits in here that she crafts that is very similar to Virginia's writing, so you really can't tell the difference. But most of it is literally word for word from the novel. So.
Is that unusual to have an adaptation be that true to a book?
I think they're all different
Yeah.
in what happens, and I think Sarah was very interested in the style in which Virginia Woolf wrote, and I think that's why she did what she did, because the narrator of the novel is very odd in how he or she or whoever that is telling us about Orlando, and so that character sometimes is a bit, if it's his character, I call it a character because it feels like it, but sometimes is goofy, sometimes is clueless, sometimes seems to be guiding Orlando, sometimes seems to be led by Orlando, and that's what happens in the play. So there's an ensemble of actors, so the entire cast is on stage for virtually the entire play, sharing this story with the audience, and so it allows these actors to play those different aspects of the narrator that are in the book.
You know, and one of the other fascinating things about this is going through all these centuries. You know, that's such an integral part of this story. You know, without like giving any spoilers or anything, can you kind of guide me through the centuries? You know, what goes on with Orlando, his life?
Everything.
Yeah.
It starts in the Elizabethan age, and it basically takes place all the way up into the present moment. And so he has a lot of love affairs, he meets a lot of different people, has a lot of life experiences, and throughout this whole time he/she is also trying to write this poem that you see come up over and over again throughout his lifetime. And the poem actually reflects Vita's own poem called The Land, but in the play it's called The Oak Tree, so it's kind of a neat little tie into Virginia Woolf's life. So.
Well,
and I think it also goes, I mean, it's interesting because it parallels Orlando, but it's Orlando dealing in the world as well. So as Heather was talking about the society and what society does to the gender roles, it's also, there were so few people in the world in the Elizabethan age versus the 7 billion that we have now. So life was on a grander scale because there was so much space in the Elizabethan age, and now everything is so cramped. And so Orlando grew up in this space where he could really do virtually anything and go anywhere. And now we can still do that, but it's on a much smaller scale. So as Orlando is getting older, the world is getting smaller. And I think that's very clear in the play as well as the novel.
Well, and one of the challenges I would think would be of going through all these centuries is the costumes. So let's talk a little bit about the costumes. We've got some drawings that we can show. But tell me about how these were developed and how you go about crossing all these centuries. It must mean a lot more costume work.
It does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Orlando changes a lot, but the entire cast changes a lot because the cast, while they are playing these narrators, are also playing all of the other characters in the play. And so we have a number of design meetings that happen before we even cast the show, and then we continue that after it's cast because now we know which actors are playing which roles, and that really aids the costume designer in creating the look of not only the show, but the look of each character, because then she can design the show with that in mind. And so, and also the difficulty of this play is that it has to be fluid. So it's constantly moving, so we can't go off stage and take 5 minutes and change all of these clothes. So costume changes, I have to stage it in a way so that people can go off seamlessly, change clothes, and then be able to make an entrance. And then also there's times when Heather actually changes clothes on stage, or other characters change clothes on stage because of that fluidity that's required by the script.
There must be little layers in the
So it's layers, but there's a neutral, not a neutral, but there's a base costume that then things can be added and subtracted from, so that we can get the idea of the Elizabethan age, the 17th century, the 18th, 19th, and up to today.
So you know where you are by what they're wearing.
And what we say.
The costumes were designed at IPFW by faculty member,
by Jeannie Pendleton.
and so she designed those, but they were really they were crafted by the students.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all of the costumes are built by students in our costume shop, and what's really fascinating by what Jeannie does with if there are students who are in the show who are also working with her, those students actually build their costumes. So they're actually taking the designs from Jeannie, who designed it, and then she's also the costume shop supervisor, so she is guiding them through the process of building the costumes that she designed. And so the students have a very active role in what they're doing.
So tell me about the cast in this production. How many? Who are they?
We have 9. We have, and it varies from all years. We have a number of freshmen, so new students to IPFW, and then we have also graduating seniors like Heather and Kirsten. Kirsten, both of them you've seen in a number of shows, and then we have 1 alumni from our program as well. So, like alumnus, I guess I should say. So it's exciting to have this wide variety of talent and experience, and all of them working together to create this exciting story, and they do a marvelous job. It's a lot of fun just to see them on stage creating all of these stories.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. That's going to be so much fun. So let's just kind of do again when and where, all the details.
Well, it opens on next Friday,
Okay.
so a week from tomorrow,
April 12th.
April
Okay.
12th.
Runs Friday and Saturday of next week, and then the following week it runs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay.
So we close on the 21st.
And so the IPFW box office, you can call, it's 481-6555 and get your tickets.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you.
I'm Melinda Haynes with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. Please join us next time on Arts Weekly when we'll learn about the electrifying dance of Kegwin and Company, presented by Fort Wayne Dance Collective, April 13th. Then we'll chat with John O'Connell and Dr. Vijay Chilikamari about IPFW and Shruti's Maestros in Concert Indian Performance Series, April 14th. For up-to-the-minute arts updates, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and be sure to join us here live Thursday evenings at 7:30 on PBS 39. Thank you for watching.
The preceding program on PBS 39 was made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, 2 great names.